I'm a game designer, Hideo Kojima. Well, what I learned, that's a very difficult question because to build something, to create something, the basic of creation has not really changed. I think there is a technology enhancement over the years. When the technology becomes bigger, of course, the number of staffs become bigger. But basically, I have a concept, and then you go on to create something with the control of quality, which is very important. Even though if the era has changed, the basic of game creation hasn't changed in that way. And I also think that, if you're satisfied with the status quo, it will never be a better creation in the future. So what I kind of learned was that you need to always have passion and strive for more and not be always satisfied with what you have done. Ever since MGS3, the problem of relaying, my thinking to all the staff has been one of the fundamental problems in the development. In MGS4, that was really apparent. But when we strive for more in the future, and if we want to create something of a MGS4 magnitude in the development team, this will always be something that we're trying to solve right now, actually. In the past, it was like, me against 100 developers, and then changed to talking to the lead and thinking about, how to construct lines. But this didn't really work out in terms of how to keep up with the control of the quality. So we are struggling how we could overcome this issue today. Well, what's so interesting about creating games is so different than creating a movie, for example. Like in a movie, you could talk to your designer saying, I want this kind of car. But since it's an interactive movie, even though I designate this kind of car, it is always important to sit down with that staff that created that car saying, this handling may be too heavy or too light, it should be much quicker, or things like that, because it's an interactive media. If I don't do that, I will not probably relay correctly to the players who actually control the car and play the game. That feeling is very essential when creating games. My kind of personal liking towards certain things hasn't changed ever since maybe I was a teenager. Of course, I'm always trying to absorb a lot of things over the 20 years or so. But, the things that inspire me, or how do I put it, antennas that I have that attract certain things, I try to make it as wide as possible and try to absorb many things as possible. But come to think of it, I kind of think, I do have the same likings for the past 20 years. If you look at my iPod, there's tons of tunes and songs in the iPod, actually. But when I look at how many favorites that I have, or the count of how many times I heard, I rarely hear those tunes, and the more tunes that I hear are the ones that have been always there. My always past favorites are the ones that has a lot of counts of how many times I heard. So if I were to express using my iPod, that's kind of how I am. Yeah, I do acknowledge that there's a kind of a Hideo Kojima brand, or even Kojima Productions brand, or a production that created MGS, that kind of expectation brand, and even a brand of Konami, that meaning I can't, just put out a simple, easy game, which is a rubbish game or a crappy game, whatever. There has to be a certain quality level. There has to be a certain surprise that this production brings out. That's one of the roles I feel that I have and my production team has. At the same time, even with that responsibility, I still want to keep the liberty. I still believe that I have the liberty to bring out something which is, surprising, actually, the users or the people who actually play the game. That liberty is still there. So I think it's both. Well, to give you maybe a surprise, people might think that I love action games and I love shoot 'em ups and I kill people all the time, but that's not it. I really like other romance and those kind of genres. Well, I do like, of course, the comedy of all the elements of novels or movies. Of course, there's no comedy genre right now, and I'm always wondering how I should represent this, which I don't have a specific idea yet, but I'm always thinking about that as a new genre. Well, the fun part hasn't changed, actually. It's the real beginning, when I'm thinking about a concept, an idea alone. And when I come up with a new idea, or think that, oh, this is really going to be fun, And when I start to share it with other people, this is the most highlight of, my moment where I could kind of burst out of the ideas that I have. But basically, when I think of these ideas, this is the most fun part. This is because I don't have to think about schedules or budget or who to assign, who should do this. This is all out of the way at that moment. It's all freedom in mind, so it doesn't cost anything. So it's really fun. That stage is really fun. But, I'm not really always nagging about how the teams got bigger and how the workloads got bigger as well, because there's a fun element in that aspect as well. Looking back in the very beginning of the industry, things that I wished I could do, which I could not do because of technology, holdbacks. These are all kind of now possible, and I'm really hoping for the future it will change. Like, now we could put in voiceovers, we could put in music, mocap using actors, things that we wished but we couldn't do is now happening right now, and this is going after this cutting edge technology, so I'm really looking forward to that. I do understand to a certain extent that game has to sell in order to survive, but a lot of games are kind of driven by business concepts, saying, oh, if we add this aspect it will sell more, so why not we create this new FPS, To a certain extent, yes, I understand, but on top of that, I still believe that there needs to be, in order to go higher, creators adding their ideas and philosophies, because if we don't do that, I don't think we could attract young people who are coming in the industry and becoming the new top developers or creators in the future. Well, I'm always saying this as well, but this is the same problem with movies or books or music as well. If a Japanese creator wants to create something for the Japanese audience, the scale becomes much smaller because of the budget restrictions, or it won't sell as much. But however, when it comes to games, it's an interactive media where it's more difficult, and a pure Japanese person just looking at domestic Japan will not make that game able to work in America or Europe. And if the budget, the people who provide the budget will not probably take risk if that creator doesn't look at the worldwide audience. But if it's recoupable, I think that's another way that these creators could survive. But I just think that it's just a matter of budget, and for Japanese developers who just look at Japan will only get a small amount of budget. I think that's the only problem. I think I'm trying to prepare an announcement for a new title for the next E3. It's quite close, but I can't say anything now, but you might hear something from me in the next E3.